Welcome back to the It Starts With You podcast. I am beyond excited to welcome Alex Colkitt to the podcast. Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to talk today.
Oh my gosh, if we have even half as much fun as we did before we hit record, I
Right.
think I think we are in for some fun. So Alex, I actually met her online through a connection and is a speaking client of mine, and just from the moment I started having conversations with you, Alex, just you have this energy, this authenticity, this fun personality about you, and I'm so excited for you to bring that to everybody today. So I want to give Alex a little bit of an introduction before we dive in. So, Alex Colkitt is a hustle culture dropout turned founder and CEO of AC Holistic Wellness. As a life coach, motivational speaker, corporate wellness workshop facilitator, stress management, and burnout recovery specialist, and mental health advocate, she's on a mission to empower high achievers to find and pursue their authentic happiness unapologetically so that they can create more impact and find more fulfillment in life. Holy cow, so many amazing words in there that I just want to emphasize this idea of this stress management, burnout recovery, mental health advocate, such important topics always, and especially now because we are seeing this so much in society and conversation. So Alex, I want to dive right in and just get to like, why is this topic so important to you and to share it with other people?
Yeah, I love this question because for a long time, I was running from my authentic self and really just followed suit with society in the sense that my parents handed down to me a blueprint of what a successful life looks like. And as I'm sure most people can relate, it's very like ladder based, right? It's like first you do this, then you do that, then you achieve this thing, and you just continue moving up and up and up. And not even just in the workplace either, right? In life, it's like hitting these arbitrary milestones of finding a partner by a certain time, getting engaged by a certain time, having a family because your parents want grandkids. And I was living and working in New York City in a 9 to 5 corporate job. I was in corporate marketing. And when I graduated from college, I was like, my dream is to make it in New York City and have a director title, 6-figure salary, be engaged, have all the friends by the time I'm 30. I don't know where that dream was never mine. And I never even thought twice about it because I was like, this is what you do, right? This is as an adult, you go into the workforce, you find a job that you don't really love, but you do that job because you're kind of good at it. You're decently happy, but you still get frustrated. And you just climb up the corporate ladder, making more money, more promotions, so that way you can have money to afford that family that you're building because your parents instilled these familial ideals on you that maybe aren't yours, et cetera, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was very much me to a T. And I got to the point where I didn't even recognize myself and had a very, very scary moment in my life where I almost ended it and just kind of looked around and was like, how did I get here? Like, I did all the things. I checked every box. I had this dream life. Anybody looking at my life through the lens of Instagram would have been like, holy shit, Alex has it made. She
Mm-hmm.
probably couldn't be happier, right? I had the boyfriend. I had the apartment in Greenwich Village. I had the 6-figure salary. I had the title. I was working at a really cool startup. Like, I was on photo shoots. I was traveling, like, glamorous. And yet I was the most miserable version of myself I've ever been in my entire life. And it was that day where I almost tried to take my life, and then the kickstart of the pandemic that actually pushed me and gave me the courage to start questioning everything that I was doing. And through that questioning, I realized that I had been living my life for everybody around me. Like, the reason I was in New York was because my college roommate was like, let's move to New York together. The reason I was busting my ass in a corporate position is because that was the image of success that my parents portrayed and expected of us, in a sense, right? Like there's this sense of, I want to make my parents proud. I want to do what they say, right? And like just follow what is going to make them proud. And I was like, that's the only reason I'm really in this corporate job, right? I was always looking for some sort of meaning and impact and purpose, and I just could not find it in the work that I was doing. And I was so burnt out from how much that job was taking of my energy and how exhausting it was trying to fit into this idea of a New Yorker that I didn't even want to be, but I thought I had to be because that's the city I was in. And it got to the point, like I said, where like I didn't recognize myself, and I was just like, I don't want to live like this anymore. So that really set off me on the path of trying to figure out who I am, what I actually want, what's going to make me happy. I remember coming home from New York. I left New York in early March of 2020 when the pandemic first started, and I went home to my parents' house. And I was in the garage, Lysol wiping down all of my stuff because
Yes.
my mom was like, you are not allowed in this house until you strip naked in the garage,
Yep.
shower in the guest room downstairs. We're going to burn the clothes that were on your body, you know? So I'm outside Lysoling all my stuff, and my dad comes out, and he could tell I was going through a really, really hard time. And he was just like, Al, what do you want? And I couldn't answer that question. Like I could not honestly be like, this is exactly what I want right now. I knew exactly what I didn't want. I knew exactly the life I did not want to live anymore, but I had to do a lot of exploration into who I am, what I want. And that's why, to bring it all the way back around to your original question, that's why I'm so passionate about everything that I coach on, everything that I speak on, because there's more than one way to live a successful life. And I think we need to give ourselves permission to really figure out what that success looks like for us without any expectation of anybody else. Because if you're living for somebody else, you'll always feel that level of conflict. But if you're living for yourself and you're in alignment, every day is going to feel good. You're not going to have to rush to retirement to have fun. And I think we spend too much, especially as women, I think we spend too much of our time putting a mask on to be accepted and to feel valued and to feel like we have any type of authority, right? We have to put on this front. And what I've learned is like just being yourself is the greatest gift you could give to the world. That's all you need to be, is yourself, exactly who you are, and the right things and the opportunities and the people that are most in alignment with that version of you are going to unlock the most fulfilling, happy life. And I'm in the process of still figuring that out for myself, but I'm on that path, and there's nothing that fulfills me more than helping somebody else kind of reclaim their life, take control of it, and do what they actually want. And that's why, again, like that's why this is so important, right? I think your long-term well-being depends on it.
Okay, so first of all, from that amazing example of honesty and authenticity and vulnerability, I already have 2 pages of notes jotted down because
I talk a lot too, so feel free to cut me off.
no, that was amazing. I didn't want to cut you off because what you just shared, like those of you listening, I know that Alex just tapped into something in you that you've been feeling. I know that she just brought out the feels. She brought out the feels in me. I got the goosebumps. I know that she just activated something in you. And if she did, I want you to pause and I want you to like listen back. I already can't wait to go back and listen because Alex, you just shared what so many people feel and are too scared to verbalize out loud. So many things. Like, first of all, just thank you for your honesty and your vulnerability around your lowest point, because you're not alone. And the more that you share that, the more that other people, you're giving people permission to go, yeah, I was at a really low point too. Especially the time, again, we just look at the time, that we've all had the last couple of years where it's just amplified for everybody, this feeling of, lost and burnout and lonely and like, what am I even doing here? And so a couple of things that I just really want to reiterate that you said was this idea of being decently happy, like in quotes I put it, that you were decently happy, because I hear this a lot from clients that I work with, regardless of what space they're in, where it's like, well, everything's going okay, everything's fine. And
Mm-hmm.
it's this idea of how long are we willing to tolerate okay or
Mm-hmm.
fine?
Mm-hmm.
And this other thing that I really want to highlight that you said is, where you didn't recognize yourself. And I've shared part of my story when I was working in corporate. And now I work with corporate organizations now and help them to, leaders in there. How can you be more self-aware and come more into who you are so that you can feel fulfilled in the work you're doing? But I remember when I got to that point where I literally said, I don't even feel like I know myself anymore. I feel like I've lost myself in all of it. And I hear that a lot from people in the workplace, a lot from women, but also
Mm-hmm.
from men, where you just give and you give and you give, and to the point that you no longer even recognize yourself, or your heart is no longer in it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to dive in and kind of get a little bit more around what you did with that. So sharing your
Yeah.
story and some of those feelings that I know a lot of people can relate to, whether they're working in
Mm-hmm.
corporate, whether they're running a business, whatever it might look like, where they just feel like they're losing themselves in the midst of
Yeah.
it. So you said, you went back home and you started to
Mm-hmm.
really dive into, what do I want to do with this? What were some of those first things, those first steps that you took that you felt like helped to start dig you out of this place that you were in?
Yeah. So the first thing that I did, and I was forced to do this, was to spend time in solitude alone. And I know the word being alone feels scary. And I think that's because in society, we idealize the word alone with loneliness and being alone and pity and negative, right? Like when you see somebody at a wedding by themselves, you're like, oh, don't worry, like you're next, like, right? Like you feel,
Mm-hmm.
you take pity on that person. So when we think about the word alone, we automatically associate it with being lonely. But there's a very positive connotation of the word being alone, which is solitude. And talk about giving yourself away. I couldn't actually remember the last time I sat by myself and did something alone, because I lived in New York right before that, right? There's people everywhere at
Mm-hmm.
all times. So you're even if you're in a coffee shop, you're in conversations with the people next to you because they're on top of you. So you're never alone. I was always at work. If I wasn't at work, I was going to a happy hour with people from work. If I wasn't at happy hour, I was home with my boyfriend at the time. And if we weren't home, we were doing something, because that is like the pressure of New York, to like get outside and make the most of being in the greatest city on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think about that time. I never spent time alone, ever. If I spent time alone, it was maybe 30 minutes to watch a TV show. So I really was not tapped into what I wanted, because at that period of time for years, I was constantly just doing everything for everybody else, right? Of course, I'll go to your brunch. Of course, let's go to dinner. Of course, let's do this thing. Of course, I'll come down to Philadelphia to see my family. Of course, right? And like, I took myself off my own to-do list and just like abandoned myself a little bit, which I know now never to do again, because that felt terrible. So, step number one is spending time in solitude. And I think that's going to give you the opportunity to tap into your gut feelings and like reactivate your intuition. I did not trust my intuition or my gut until 6 months after leaving, after deciding to like make my transition out of corporate. I would second guess myself, and I would not be confident when I would make a decision, and then I'd retract it. And like, I didn't trust myself.
Mm-hmm.
And spending time alone allowed me to reconnect with that intuition and start to trust that inner knowing again, because I started to like lead with it. So if I had a pull to like do a paint by numbers, I was like, oh, interesting. I've never been interested in creative stuff. I've always told myself I'm not the creative one. My family's very creative.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm like letting myself just kind of follow that nudge and start to paint for fun with no expectations. Expectations is a big thing too, right? With no expectations of that thing leading anywhere, and just letting yourself be curious about those pulls, That's going to help to start to clue you in to what's actually going to fulfill you and make you happy. So spending time alone is the first thing you can do, right? Sitting in silence is cool too. You're going to be really uncomfortable. It's going to be really awkward at first if you're not used to it. But that was like, because at the time when I was starting this self-discovery process, I was very deeply hurt. I was dealing with that mental health crisis. I was dealing with the breakup of me and my ex. And sitting in silence was terrifying to me. Terrifying. Because I was like, now I actually have to face my feelings and listen to what's been going on that I've been shoving down and ignoring, right? And I would not have that opportunity had I not be sitting in solitude with myself. And then I start to heal, and then you start to get curious and explore your intuition. Yeah. And then you just go from there.
I love that as the first step because it's the thing that seems so simple. I think when people are in this place where they're feeling misaligned, where they're feeling unfulfilled, where they're feeling, deeply disconnected from themselves and other people, oftentimes they're looking for other people to tell them what to do, or they're looking for some really new novel thing. Like, what am I missing? Like, what am I not understanding? And it sounds like such a simple thing to do. And also, like you said, a very terrifying thing to do, to actually disconnect from everything and reconnect with yourself by just being with yourself. And the idea of that for a lot of people, I think, is terrifying because they're afraid of what's going to come up for them when they do that.
Yeah, because if something's coming up and it's the complete opposite of what your life is, that's extremely confronting. And you might not be ready to face it. Like, I always joke, and I talk about this in my speech, I blew my life up overnight. It was so much change at once. I left the city, I broke up with the guy, I left the job, or it was like everything that in my life I blew up at once. I do not recommend doing that because it was a lot, and I had to confront a lot in a very short period of time. But like you said, if there's one thing in your life that you're just like, this doesn't feel right, trust that. Spend time with yourself to really lean into what you're feeling, because even if you don't want to accept it and admit it, your body knows, like, right? And I think the more time you spend in solitude, the more time you'll come to terms with whatever that thing is. And then finally one day you'll acknowledge it and then take action. And it's not as scary as it might feel.
And this is so, I just resonate with this message so much, and the story that I shared around when I was in corporate, and I felt like I was going to, especially the large corporate organization that I had been with for, 6 years, and I felt like I was going to be there forever. Like, that was like, I'm going to be here forever. And the year and a half that I really started feeling misaligned, and I had all these health issues coming up. So I always say I felt like my identity was lost because I identified myself as a worker and as somebody who valued health, and I had all these health things going on, so I feel like I lost that. I had all these work things going on, so I feel like I was losing that. And I just remember, for me, a good year and a half of just feeling negative, and you feel it in your body. I started getting even more sick. I noticed myself being more negative at work and around situations and bringing it home. And the thing that I never wanted to do was to address it with myself and go, well, what else is there? And I remember, and I think I shared this on an earlier episode with my story, as I was out taking a walk one day. I left work and went with my husband, took a walk. And that's the day that it all came. And I decided, like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, this isn't aligned to me and what I want to do and the impact I want to have anymore. And so I love that you share that, because if you're listening to this and you're feeling this, and again, what comes up for you is going to be different. Your thing that comes up might not be, I need to stop doing the thing I'm doing. It might be, I need to get re-energized about it. I need to change my approach to it. I need to change my attitude to it. Maybe you do love the work that you're doing right now, but for you, there's another area of your life. So just know that in sharing our stories and Alex sharing her story, this doesn't mean that you need to abandon the thing you're doing. Maybe that's the thing that comes up for you. Maybe it's like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this. But maybe for you, it's something different, but you're not going to know because we can't tell you. Alex does coaching as well. And like, we know we can't tell you what it is you should do. Only you can do that. So I love that first step of be alone, sit with yourself, see what comes up for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so Alex, when we talked about you're bringing this into your talk, which has been
Mm-hmm.
an absolute joy to work with you on this process because I am so passionate about the thing you're talking about. Obviously, I relate, but in working with
Yeah.
clients, I see it so much. What are some of the key things that you share in your talk and when you're talking about this topic with people around this idea?
Yeah. So I talk a lot about how to actually release the expectations, right? I think we have such a tight grip on what people around us think of us, and we forget about what we think of ourselves, right? And like your self image and the relationship that you have with yourself is the most important relationship in your world, in your life. So I talk a lot about how to release those expectations of society, really giving you like the opportunity to redefine what success looks like in your life, right? I talk a lot about how I was sitting in my first experience with a coaching program, and the coach literally asked one of the people in the group about how she defined success, and the response was very similar to how I had defined it at that time, which was around financial success and like corporate leadership, climb the ladder, right? And the coach just goes, well, how would that feel if you could define it by the impact that you want to make? And that's the thing. She like hooked me on that, because I remember sitting in my corporate office just looking around and being like, is this it? Like, is this really what I'm working on? This has no meaning. Every day that I'm sitting in this desk, I'm just selling more goods, because I worked in marketing. I was like, all I'm doing is selling things to make money. And that feels so out of alignment with my core values. So then going back to that coaching session and Serena saying that, my mind was blown. Like my jaw hit the floor and I was like, wait a minute, you're allowed to do that? I was like, you're allowed to do that? So that's another thing I talk a lot about, is like giving yourself permission to really look at the life that you want to be living and add your own metrics of success based on what you want to work towards, not on some arbitrary goal that somebody else gave to you, right? So I talk a lot about that. And then it's not easy, I will say that, veering off from the standard path, doing your own thing. You're going to be confronting a lot of people with things that they don't want to deal with yet. So they're probably going to have not the best reaction towards you when you say you want to do something different or change something or move somewhere, or, veer from that path. So I talk a lot about how you can be your own hype girl or boy in those moments, and tools and strategies on how to like stand up for yourself when the self-doubt comes in, because that's inevitable, right? Like I'm 3 years into entrepreneurship, but self-doubt is still there, right? And I thought it was very loud when I first started, and it's still here now, but I have better coping mechanisms to be like, okay, you know who you are, you know what you want, you are so confident in the impact you want to make. Take action in that direction. Like, don't let that, like, feel the fear, be afraid, but just like, do not let that stop you, right? So I talk a lot about that. And then just in general, giving yourself permission to choose differently if something in your life is no longer serving you, or it was given to you and it's not yours. You can choose something else. And it's the whole like crux of my speech is about giving yourself that permission. Because I think, again, as women, we kind of just do the things that we think we need to do and act the way we think we need to act. But it's like, no, give yourself permission to be authentically you. And that is the greatest gift that you can give to this world.
Oh my goodness. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Right? Mic drop. That is the
Right
greatest
there.
gift, because, and I know when I'm working with clients, especially around when we're talking about stepping into your power and your voice and using that more,
Yeah.
I get the privilege, and I truly see it as an honor and a privilege when I get to work with a client and I get to see their story and their message. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like people need to hear this. And I so genuinely believe that, like, people need to hear it. There are people waiting for you to hear this message, and you are the only one that can deliver in the way that you deliver it. And so when I hear you say that of like this was something that was given to you to share with people, to let people know, and I genuinely believe that to be true for everybody, is that they have this unique way that they offer their gifts and their skills, and so many people are hiding it away. And when we can learn to embrace that and use that, oh my gosh, you change yourself, but you also change so many people.
Yeah.
And so I want to just re-highlight some of the things Alex said when she talks about what she speaks on, the releasing expectations and redefining success. And this is so true. It's one of the things I would say I work with people on a lot. And I'm sure, Alex, you saw that a lot in your coaching, is just really getting people to know what their values are. I know I do this with leaders, and a lot of the times in my leadership workshops, people are like, I haven't really thought about my values. It's like, well, if you don't know your values, then how do you know if you're in alignment and making choices? And then usually when we find people burned out or really unhappy or unfulfilled, it's because they don't know their values, or they're not living in alignment with those. They're taking all the ones that everybody else gave to them that they thought they should value. And so, releasing expectations and getting clear on your values, and then making choices through that. And then the other thing you said is, this idea of permission to choose differently, giving yourself that permission and redefining those metrics. And I love that. Be your own hype girl and standing up for yourself. Because like you said, when you decide to make a change, or when you decide to maybe set boundaries, or when you decide to start being more clear with what it is you want, if you've never done that before, you're going to have people push back. Or you're going to push back. You're going to go, oh, I said I was going to, keep these boundaries, but I'll just bend them for this person. Or, you decide that you want to change your schedule with work, or you decide you want to pivot. There's going to be your voice and other people that's going to push back on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And every single time you break one of your own boundaries, you diminish your own self-respect. So it's like, you're not saying no to people when boundaries are being set, right? You're giving yourself the opportunity to say yes to more of the things that are in alignment with you and what are going to help you feel fulfilled and satisfied. So it's just unlearning a lot of the conditioning we've gone through, which is hard and challenging, and I still deal with it every single day. I don't want people to ever get the impression that coaches are perfect. We're maybe like 5% ahead of you, right? It's not like we're still dealing with all this stuff ourselves. So but it's a practice, and you can show up for yourself every day in doing that.
Oh, I love that you said that. I was just, because that actually leads into, if someone's listening to this and they're going, okay, I've got these things, I'm kind of feeling this way, I know I want to make a change, can release expectations. When you say practice, like what's something that somebody could be doing now? Like they get done listening to this, or something that they could start, a small thing that they could start doing every day that would just help them get traction, because we don't want people to feel like, oh, I have to do all these things. Like what's a small thing, a small practice that somebody could start to implement?
Yeah, okay. So I'll share two things immediately come to mind. One is definitely more practical every day. So I have an affirmation on my desk, and it says, how are you showing up for yourself today? So every single day, I ask myself that question first thing in the morning. I say, how am I showing up for myself today? And this is going to help me get little tick marks in the box of self-confidence and self-respect. Because if I'm like, I'm showing up for myself today because I'm going to do the dishes before I go to bed tonight. I'm showing up for myself today by writing in my gratitude journal. And that could be it, right? One small little thing that's going to help you feel really accomplished and good about what you're doing, right? Getting into the habit of showing up for yourself in small little things every day is going to help you show up for yourself when the bigger, scarier goals come about. So that's one small thing to get started, to like really start to build the relationship with yourself. And then I would say the other thing, which will take some imagination, is, have you ever heard of the Perfect Monday exercise?
I think so, in like a couple different ways, but I think so.
Yeah. Okay. So you want to take out a piece of paper, a journal, whatever, and you want to write out your absolute perfect Monday from the minute your eyes wake up to the minute your eyes close. And I want you to suspend reality. Money doesn't matter. Where you live doesn't matter. Having a Monday through Friday corporate job does not matter. Suspend complete reality and tell me exactly minute by minute how you would spend that day. And then what you can do most immediately is look at that and pull out some of the things that you're currently doing, right? You're like, okay, well, I'm already waking up and having my coffee. I'm already going for a walk. I already have a dog, right? So those things would move into the category of like, we're already doing these things, right? And then you look at that list and you're like, what else from that perfect Monday could I start doing to add to that list?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like slowly but surely you're building brick by brick your dream life. But you have to start small. So I would say the affirmation of how am I showing up for myself every single day? That's the first question you ask yourself, and then commit to that one thing. And then for a little bit more, do the perfect Monday exercise and see how close you are. See where things are misaligned. See if you've been thinking about moving to California for 2 years and in your perfect Monday it still says you want to live in California. Start to look at Zillow, set up alerts, right? Like make those little adjustments and changes. Like I said, don't blow your life up at once like I did. That was not, I mean, I survived it, obviously.
Right, you're here to tell the tale.
I'm here to tell the tale, but it was a lot of change at once. So using both of those tools, I think, would be a really great place to start.
And I love that. First of all, I love that you shared like the two very tangible, specific things. And then to highlight that, I also talked about we kind of just like went all in. And for me, it was a good time for me to do it. And at the same time, I absolutely don't recommend that for everybody. And so I love that you're highlighting that. Like, we're not saying go change everything. We're saying if you're feeling unhappy, unfulfilled in any part of your life, take one step. And then take another step. So I love that. So that affirmation, how am I showing up for myself today? And the perfect Monday. So I've heard it explained not as like the perfect Monday, but just like what would the ideal day look like? But I love that. I love that way that you have that frame. So what would that day look like? And then first look to the things that you're already doing that are part of that. And then one thing at a time, like, okay, I'm not doing this, but I really want to. What type of action could I take that's going to get me closer to that perfect Monday? Those are amazing examples. Thank you so much for sharing that and for sharing your story. I love to, when we end the podcast, always ask my guests the same question, which is, the name of the podcast is It Starts With You. So Alex, in your own words, what does It Starts With You mean to you?
When I hear that, it feels like you need to be the leader of your own life. Like everything in life that you want starts within you. And you just need to listen to those nudges and take action for yourself, and be the leader of your own life, right? Like no one's going to do the work for you. No one's going to take accountability for your actions. Like you've got to do that. And when you do that, true fulfillment and happiness is on the other side.
I love that. And just reminding people, I think so many people feel like it's so unachievable for them to not just be getting by every day.
Yeah.
Like we're not here to say you're not going to have hard days and there's going to be days that you're like, oh, I don't want to do that. Or like I always say, life hits you across the face no matter where you're at. It's like, how are you responding to it? And you really don't have to be miserable every single day.
You do not.
You don't.
You don't at all.
There's so many options.
So many options. And I think, like you said, like a lot of people are like, well, that can't be me. Well, why not? Why not you? Why not now? Why not? Right? And I think simply reframing that a little bit has helped me build the courage to go through all of the transition that I have over the past 3 years, and to go from corporate to coaching to now speaking. Like the more you listen to yourself, the shorter that timeline actually becomes too, right? Because like I said, for 8 years, I was in corporate in New York doing things I didn't want to do, ignoring myself. The minute I started listening to myself, everything changed, and in such a short amount of time. So those little baby steps do really add up. And just ask yourself, why not you, and why not now?
I love that. Why not you and why not now? Thank you so much, Alex. This was such an amazing conversation. And I know that people are going to go, okay, Alex, I told you all. If you're sitting there, I told you that you want to be in her energy and her attitude and her story. So Alex, share with us, what do you have going on right now and how can people find you and stay connected with you?
Yeah, so you can go over to LinkedIn. My handle is Alex Colkitt, just my name. You can also connect with me on Instagram at alex.colkit. Although I like to hang out on LinkedIn more, so I will say that is the place to actually find me. And right now, you can join the wait list for my coaching program. I think I'm going to be launching it in Q1 of next year. All about helping you find life work balance, true fulfillment, the meaning and impact that you're looking for day to day. So there is a link on my LinkedIn to actually join the wait list. So you can, that's what I've got going on now. Or you can just join my free newsletter. It's called Shifts Happen. That's also linked on my LinkedIn.
Love that. And make sure to check out Alex is posting more about her signature talk that she talked
Yes.
about today and sharing those tips, and had the privilege of working with Alex on this and seeing her message come to life. And it truly is such an inspiring message that can help so many people. And so make sure that you follow her and connect with her. And if you're looking for somebody to speak on this topic, make sure that you hit Alex up here. So we'll also make sure we drop those links in the show notes for everybody to stay connected. Alex, thank you so much again. I so appreciate you being on. And make sure that you tag us, those of you who are listening, tag us, reach out to Alex, let her know that her message really hit home for you. And remember that it starts with you.